Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to A Rebel's Compass. I am highly delighted to have Laura Kissmann with me this afternoon to share some information about what she does and some workshops that she has coming up in the near future. Now, Laura is a quantum clinician, and that fascinates me. So for me to be able to speak to Laura and to find out a little bit more about what a quantum clinician does and how it will support you in your health and well-being, I'm highly delighted to have you here, Laura. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm highly delighted to have you here. So as energy evolves and as healing modalities evolve, and we become more and more aware that there are other options to be able to heal the physical body and to heal our emotional and mental states of being, to be able to have access to you and what you do as a quantum clinician. If somebody has never heard of that, can you give us a synopsis of what a quantum clinician does and what they access within healing?
I'll do my best. It is a new term that I'm even new to. And I've traditionally called myself a holistic nutritionist because that's what I was trained in. I'm also trained in massage therapy, access consciousness bars and Reiki and different other energy modalities. But a couple years ago, I got the wonderful opportunity to take a brand new pioneer course out of the States called Applied Quantum Biology. And then I just recently finished level 2, and believe I'm the first Canadian to have, I'm not sure I'm the first Canadian to do the second one, but I was the first Canadian to do the first one. And I fell in love with this, you can call it a modality, but it's encompassing so much about health. It's basically biology meets quantum physics, and it's looking at the body with a completely different perspective than we used to, where we would just look at, for example, on the food front, we would look at what we call the macros and macronutrients, and we look at the micronutrients. And so, I've been coaching that and doing food sensitivities and looking at gluten and all of those details for a long time, trying to coach people on the right diet to eat. This goes so much further. It goes to what we call the quantum level. And quanta in Latin means the tiniest packet. And so when we talk about physics, an electron would be the tiniest packet of electricity, and a photon would be the tiniest packet of light, for example. And so we're working at that tiny level. So hence the name quantum biology. So we're going much further than, like I say, the macronutrients and things like that, proteins, fats, and carbs. We're looking at what's going on in the cell, in this tiny little organelle called the mitochondria that produces energy in the body. But it produces more than just energy. That's the secret to quantum biology. It produces infrared light, and it also produces, a form of UV light as well, if you're going to get technical, and a very, very tiny, low wavelength of light. And then it also makes a special form of water, a gel-like water. And so we want to make sure we're doing everything to make that process work and not interfere with it. And then our biology will be healthier. And so a quantum clinician is someone who is looking at the quantum biology, and you can do that through food. You can do that through exercise, through massage, sound therapy, light therapy, because light and water and magnetism, all of these frequency, vibration, all of these things are affecting the quantum biology of the person. So I'm calling myself a quantum clinician because I do more than just nutrition. But I'm technically a quantum nutritionist,
right?
But I do more than, as you know, I do more than just the coaching, and I'll just share this, that in this process I have learned, I was so focused on food before. Food is important. It does play a role. Because it also is a timing. It tells the body, it gives some timing aspects to the body to help with circadian rhythm. But there's so much more that affects those little mitochondria and our cellular health, our overall health. As we know, right? We know that exercise helps. We know that moving the body, and touch and sound and all of that. So yeah,
they all have a huge impact, and certainly sound therapy, I know, has a massive effect. But like you say, it's all encompassing. So we're moving out of that Western medicine where you have a symptom, they treat the symptom, and through whatever protocol they put you on very often creates other symptoms, but we never actually get to the cause of what created that symptom in the first place. And I know from my own experience several years ago of having an issue that came up with my heart that affected the electrical function of my heart and various other things, that I had 3 different cardiologists for one heart, and each one looked at a specific area, but nobody spoke to each other. So when it comes to that quantum energy, when it comes to that ability to be able to look at the tiniest detail that we perhaps think is insignificant, is the actual tiniest detail that cascades into everything else that comes out as a bigger symptom later on.
Yeah. One of my instructors on level 2 is a quantum cardiologist in the States. And we actually have in the Quantum Biology Collective, there's another young, he's a chiropractor by background, but he's an expert on the heart, Dr. Hussey. And it's so interesting to listen and learn from them in terms of the heart. And it's about keeping the flow. And that all ties back to the mitochondria and to the water that it makes and the red light that it makes. And I'll just share one quick fun thing. Yeah, well, this is so, I got such a kick out of this. Dr. Twyman, who's he's in St. Louis, and he said he actually had to call the police and the fire department because he works in a big high-rise apartment, and he's got this massive red light unit that he uses as therapy, and it makes the whole office fiery red. And so he had to actually call them and warn them. And it's a really different way to look at the body and health. And like you said, it's going back a step further from the symptoms. The symptoms are giving us information.
Absolutely.
They're like a warning light, right? Something's going wrong with this body. But and it's so interesting to take people back and ask them like a really simple question I ask my clients is, I ask them, when do they wake up in the morning? When do they go to bed? Do they go outside? And you know what I'm trying to get at? I'm trying to find out, are you synced with the sun?
Right.
And it's such a simple question, and it gets people to think, because if you have all these symptoms showing up in your physiology, and you're coming to me to ask me what the best supplement is, supplement's not going to do it, or changing your diet slightly is not going to do it. Weight loss, sure, it'd be great if you could lose some weight if you're overweight, but if you're not synced up to the sun, let's just start the conversation there. Let's get you and let's see where you are then, So that's the coaching that I do. I'm coaching people to get back to nature.
Right.
We're really an under natured society. That's another whole conversation, but
that is a whole conversation. You and I are going a long way, and I have a lot to say about that subject and how we've extended and impacted the physical body by the light bulb. We rose at sunrise, we went to bed at sunset, and now we've extended the day by 4, 5, sometimes longer hours by the light bulb and by the computer and various other light frequencies that come from that have an effect on the physical body and disrupt sleep patterns. So absolutely it's fascinating, Laura, and I know you and I are going to have a few more conversations about all of this and to share as much information as possible, because when we get information, it gives us an opportunity to have a choice on what we do with our own physical health and how we apply that in bringing health and vitality back into the body.
Yeah. And I think some of us got the message in COVID. We've all been through quite a journey this last few years, and hope that message is getting clearer. And that's part of my mission, is to help people see what does cause dis-ease in the body. And I'm also, I should mention too, I'm studying in all my spare time to become a classical homeopath, which is another whole, boy, it makes you look at what causes dis-ease. And but I
so much to learn.
So much to learn, about what happened and how did so many people get sick. And that's another, very, very interesting. We live in interesting times.
We do, absolutely we do, and it's fascinating. And like you say, the more we can have conversations like this and delve deeper into different things, it gives us an opportunity to be able to view something differently that might make you go, that's why that happened, and then it puts you on a completely different pathway then. Now I know that you have a workshop coming up, and it's Quantum Power Workshop, is that correct?
It's we're calling it the Quantum Health Power Series. Because it's 5 workshops in the span of 5 weeks.
Okay.
A little bit crazy on my part, but I'm working with Leslie Cochran.
Yes.
Who's promoting this. I'm so lucky for her to step up and do this. And so I'm going to be starting next week, the 1st. It's every Thursday night. And the timings vary depending on which workshop. Quantum nutrition, I like to do it in 3 hours. It just evokes so much conversation. And she's hosting 2 of them. The first and the last are in her home, and the other 3 are online. I'm going to be doing them over Zoom. But I have the recordings for all. So if someone says, oh my gosh, I live so far away, I can't make it to this tiny town in Ontario where we live. And she lives near Almont, Ontario. And so there is a way to work around that we can. And of course, there's a limited number of how many we can fit into her home as well. So
okay. But if you're doing it online, then it's accessible to anybody.
Yes.
Excellent. So this 5-week workshop, are there specific topics for each week?
Yes. So I can go through them one by one.
Yes, please do. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay. And I'll just give you the background. This has come out of when I finished my level 1 course. I just realized I didn't know it all. I still don't know it all. You never know it all. But I wanted to integrate it. And I actually took the course twice. I was able to sit in because the question and answer periods with the other practitioners that were on many of them are doctors and naturopaths and chiropractors and people with more degrees than I have. And so it was fascinating to hear, how they were using it in their different fields, and dental as well. The teeth are huge. And so I just I really was really honored that I got the chance to take the course, and also being the first Canadian, I just took it as, I don't know, I just felt a responsibility that I needed to get this message out. It's just not out there. And of course it was in the COVID era, right? It was 2021, early 2021. And so I should say, no, it was early 2022. And so I just thought, oh, I'll just do one workshop. Well, that first workshop, then I thought I want to delve into this deeper and this deeper and this deeper. And I held off the nutrition, which is supposed to, I'm a holistic nutritionist. I just kept putting it off because I didn't want to have this conversation about food. So it is the last one in the series. And so the first one is Quantum Biology 101. It's really an introduction to quantum biology. And it's important to do this one because even though I do a tiny review each workshop, you need the foundational understanding of the mitochondria. So I'm a very visual person, and so I love a lot of pictures because that's how I learn the best. And I feel like helping those other people that are visual as well, and they need to see the picture of the mitochondria. Maybe they didn't take biology in high school. I didn't. I took it in university. You don't need to know tons and tons, but you do need to know these basics, because once you learn about this, you can't unlearn it, but you will never look at your health the same. It will change how you really view health. And so that's the first one. I'll just see if there's any notes. Yeah, I introduced this term called the mitochondriac, which is someone who basically loves on their mitochondria. So they look at their health from that perspective, and they do everything possible to keep their mitochondria healthy. Because the mitochondria, we have different DNA in the body, and everybody says, I have this, they might say I have the genes from my mom, or for this disease, and I'm doomed, Well, there's another piece to all this. That's your nuclear DNA. It's very important. But there is your mitochondrial DNA, and there's only 37 versus, I don't know if it's 22,000 DNA. There's only 37 mitochondrial DNA, and you get them from your mother. So it's always very important to look at your mother's health. And so I'm going down a rabbit hole here. I'll get myself out. But okay. With the DNA, so it's so important to understand that epigenetic, those epigenetics, because they actually impact whether or not you turn on one of those or activate one of those nuclear DNA. So we talk about mitochondria.
Yeah, it's clear to mention that you don't have to turn on those signals. So
you don't. And the thing about the mitochondria is they're easy to get damaged.
Yeah.
You could have mutations in them. And so again, it's even more important to take care of those. And you may have inherited some mutations. It depends on how healthy your mother was, or your grandmother, for example. And so you may have to work harder there are people that work hard at their health. Sometimes it's for a reason, because they have more mutations. It's a term called mitochondrial heteroplasmy. Anyway, that's a little bit detailed. And then I talk about what a quantum health coach does and what the Quantum Biology Collective is. I'm actually on another practitioner directory. It's out of the States. So anyone in the world really could reach out to me to say, okay, I need some coaching, whatever. So I'll explain that. And then I have a little fun quiz as well. And we get into details. This is really important. We talk a lot about circadian rhythm in this one. And I at the end, one of the handouts for it is it's how to design your day. And that is worth $250 of this whole workshop, because if you just follow that, it's a pretty amazing prescription for health. So that's that. And so you'll learn about your master clock, chronobiology. And then that's the one that I kind of teach. I kind of have it flow with a personal health story, and it's really my own. So that's where I really tell in detail what happened in my life and where things went wrong, why I think they went wrong. And it took me honestly to taking this course to have those insights into how did my health go so wrong somewhere along the way in my early 30s. So,
and very often that's what happens to violently push us onto a path that we need to go on when we are in the process of understanding our own health journey and how to bring our own physical, mental, and emotional body into balance. I'm the same. I have my own stories that brought me to where I am now. So, and those stories are priceless, because somebody somewhere can identify with that story.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, no, I think it's so important to bring it that all. I kind of weave the story all through it, try and lighten up the the science. Yeah. So and then the second one is it's called the sunlight protocol. It is probably the lightest, and I find this one, it's very visually pleasing. This one, I used photographs from different trips that I took in the mountains, and anyway, so you see a lot of sun in it. And so it is. It's basically teaching people how to. There's a word called replete. I don't know if it's to fill in the holes of people's light deficiency. And most people think, I'm not light deficient. Well, I'm going to teach you that most of us are, especially Canadians that live indoors 93% of the time. So hence why I have a window open that you may hear noises from. And so pretty much everybody in the modern world is light deficient. And it comes from, just a little bit of water here. So I took the basis of this from one of the modules that I took in the first course. And it's taught by my homeopathy instructor, my current homeopathy instructor called Heather Shepard. And she developed something called the sunlight protocol.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take very much of that foundation. And then I also weave it with what I call the light, it's not my term actually, the light diet. Matt Maruka came up with this. And so I kind of weave the two together, and then I fill in a lot more details and holes to really explain the science behind why it's so important to get morning light, for example. People don't realize that UVA is so important to precondition the skin to be able to get vitamin D.
Right.
And it's really tied to our hormones. So anybody that's struggling with perimenopause, menopause, struggling to get pregnant, they'll find this one. There'll be some really great hints in this one for them. Let's see what else. Just really using the solar spectrum to heal and prevent or augment your health. And I talk a little bit about heliotherapy, how it was used in the past. This is so interesting. I didn't necessarily know that even existed. And yeah, the science gets clear. We get into wavelengths and solar spectrum. And again, I'll review the number one. And then we get in this part I find so interesting is we talk about sun blockers. So, should we use sunglasses? Should we use sunscreen? Is there a time or place for those? What about skin cancer and those risks? And I show some interesting new studies on all of that. And I teach people about 2 apps they can use on their phone to help get sun safer. And even tan through beachwear, which I'm gonna not be shy and show you. I live in it. This is a sports bra. I don't know if you can see it. Very colorful, but it helps to let more sunlight through it. So I think my neighbors all think I'm batshit crazy. I walk around half naked all the time, but I'm just trying to get my sunlight. My sunlight RX, as we call it. And that's pretty much sums up that one. The next one is the blue light protocol. And it was originally titled Quantum Sleep. And I did it to really entice people to come to this workshop, because I really didn't think if I called it the blue light protocol, people would come. Well, people came. And by the end of the first time I taught it, we never got to specifics on sleep. All I did was talk about blue light, which has a really big impact on sleep. And so basically, I finally retitled it this time and made a new poster. And so the next workshop is Quantum Sleep. So this one, so it gives you the sleep protocol, which the sleep protocol is the sunlight protocol. You need to get that light in the day because that sets you up for good sleep. And then to really protect yourself from artificial light at night. And this is actually fascinating. Again, inspired by one of my instructors, who is now a CEO of a wonderful company that makes blue blocking glasses. I would normally wear my day lenses here like this, but because I have enough sunlight coming through, and I've got screen stuff on so I'm not actually wearing, but I wear these a ton. So, and so I actually will talk about those too during it, and different blue blockers. So and this one is his story is weaved through this, because he's an amazing person, amazing journey. He's been on health journey. And I think his story just highlights how important it is to pay attention to artificial light.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance to this. That's why I really get into this. And I also talk about, this is an interesting one, suicide by light. I'll just drop that little hint. You'll have to come to the workshop to understand what I mean by that. And then just how it affects what we call our redox potential, which is very much, you want to have a high redox potential to stay healthy and prevent disease. And then I actually come up with 21 health effects of blue light toxicity, what we call that. I have a little quiz, a fun quiz again in this one, and I give you lots of resources. Lots of resources, and again another app. So just to learn about the body's relationship with multiple light spectrums, and to maintain the objective is really to maintain a healthy and balanced light exposure protocol in your life. I think that wraps up that one. Yeah, I guess if I didn't say it, just to be aware of the harmful effects, um, that blue light unopposed with red, because
Right.
blue light is good,
Hmm.
but in nature, blue light is never without red, and we're
Right.
making light bulbs that are fully blue, so that's the problem. And so, just to know that the harmful effects of blue light, without that red, can have on the human circadian cycle and, of course, the sleep, which I never really get to the sleep part of that whole workshop. So that brings me to quantum sleep. And this one, I give some stats on how bad our sleep is. And if you just talk to people, you find
Oh,
out
most people don't sleep.
people don't sleep, and kids are having trouble sleeping
Yeah.
now, and it's crazy. Yeah. So sleep, we know it's important. Everybody feels better when they have good sleep. But when we think about the mitochondria and how it's affecting our quantum biology, sleep has has this time in the night that's all circadian, it's all
Hmm.
scheduled, things that happen. And our mitochondria go through a dishwashing cycle in the middle of the night.
Right.
And we need to set ourselves up to have that cleaning. And if you're not having that cleaning, the long-term effects from that, well, there will be effects, right? There'll be inflammation, there'll be,
Hmm.
you'll feel it. But the longer term effects of that is something, it's called autophagy and apoptosis. And
Right.
if anybody knows about cancer, they know that apoptosis is it's this cell dying, cell death, and then these new cells being made. Whereas autophagy is just means cellular repair. Those two need to be working well
Mhm.
to avoid cancer. So it's a real cancer prevention. So I talk about that. And so anyway, this workshop, I delved into more of my holistic background, my holistic nutrition background. So it's a whole lot of sleep tips beyond just the mitochondria, but it all affects it. And so we get into some really interesting, this actually came out of a request of the class, the first class I taught. They wanted more. And so we get into sleep chronotypes, we get into some Ayurveda with the seasons. Can you catch up sleep? Is that a myth or not? Sleep hygiene, of course, really how to repair yourself, how to prepare the bedroom. And then breathing is a big part of this. And this is becoming really interesting right now. So many
Yes.
people have sleep, either UARS, I should know it. Um, it'll come to me. And sleep apnea. It's like the precursor to sleep apnea.
Yeah.
And then body position, we'll talk about pillows and tongue position when you sleep. Um, and then we'll talk about all the light, the sunlight, all that stuff that we, oh, and then electromagnetic frequencies, we'll touch on that with this one. Sound, temperature, the whole cold exposure or in bed, and then exercise. Then we get into some dietary stuff, some blood sugar, leptin resistance, timing of your last meal, what to avoid and enjoy, without getting too much detail because the next workshop is quantum nutrition. And then the supplements. And this will surprise people when I get to this
I'm
part.
sure.
I'll just drop a hint.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I'm absolutely sure because we're taught one thing and it isn't necessarily the truth. So I'm absolutely sure that that will shock a few people.
yeah, this one will. Yeah, I had to go down a big hole on this one. So, and then quantum nutrition. So this is the one we're planning at her house, but I do have it recorded already, and I've taught it at different retreats, and it's pretty special. Because it's a holistic nutritionist teaching quantum nutrition, I think
Mhm.
it's why I find this one really, this is really truly my workshop.
Yes.
Didn't hear it from anybody else. I had to come up with this one. And like I say, it took me a year to finally do it. And so, oh yeah, even my description here is a unique workshop using quantum health strategies and circadian biology to help you design a nutritional diet for foundational health. Okay. And so yeah, so it's what do the little light workers, the mitochondria, what do they prefer instead
Mhm.
of the dietary dogma that we're all given that we should be keto, carnivore,
Yes.
vegan, vegetarian, right? Mediterranean diet, all these diets, right? Um, and with this, I'm really trying to awaken people their ancestral wisdom, because you tell people some things and it's like they get it.
Mhm.
They truly get it. It's so neat. And it'll help to rewild your life a little bit by simply learning some really key principles. But at the same time, we go into some science, some newer science that's driving some of this. And so, yeah, we get into all kinds of things. Yeah, I do a review. I have to for this one because some of the concepts, and if you don't have those foundations, it's really important. So leptin is a hormone. It's the master hormone. We're going to talk a lot about leptin, and that is going to be a workshop. But I'm actually going to coach people in the fall for the first time on how to reset their leptin, especially people that are struggling with gaining weight or losing weight that really need that. And hormonal problems too. And then we're going to talk about local eating, seasonal eating, the right fats, deuterium. That's means heavy hydrogen. That's really, really important. And gets really involved with cancer. Glyphosate is that chemical in Roundup that's pervasive in our food.
Yes.
And we'll talk some of the real basics like nutrient dense food, just eating real food. I call it JERF. Sulfate, cholesterol, microwaving, hydration. So I try to cover all those, and the last thing is mindset. Is really big with dietary, and then what I don't cover is fasting because it's too much. That's another whole workshop in itself. And then I'll cover some supplements only if there's time, but usually we never get to supplements with this one.
Right.
Fun. Yeah. So that's that. This is that power series. So
it's an all-encompassing 5-week topic to really give you an overview and to give you the opportunity to deeper dive into an area that calls to you, and for you to be able to do the coaching on that specific area should somebody want to really look at their health from a different perspective. And I know my own journey, and I know many others are like this. You go to your regular doctor, you go to a nutritionist, you go to a naturopath, and you never quite get to the reason why you experience what you're experiencing. And I found through my own journey, and as we mentioned right at the very beginning, science is evolving, and things that
science is never settled. I hate to contradict
it's always
something.
evolving. But
in the last few years,
even the introduction into how sound frequency and light therapy, and how even essential oils or different things like that, which many years ago they would have completely kiboshed and said, no, it's this way and no other way. Now we're beginning to understand the depth of who we are as a physical experience and what we need to be able to thrive. So this actually gives people an opportunity to be able to perhaps look at something from a different viewpoint.
Karen, I have to interject on that. So the level 2 quantum biology, the modules were the very first one was sound therapy.
Right.
The next one was, I think, the immune system, cardiology I was mentioning, and the last one was minerals. But I have to say that module that I took on sound was life-changing. Just to take that level 2 course, it was life-changing. But the sound therapy and all of these modalities you're mentioning, when we get those right with the body, you're actually changing the water in the body. And the water, people, we hear this statistic, we're 70% water. Well, babies are 80% water. Unfortunately, I don't know your age, but at my age right now, sorry?
I'm 62.
62. Okay, we're close. I'm 56. Well, I'll be turning 57 in the fall. And I hate to break it to you, but we're like 55% water.
Yeah. That's why your skin shrivels. That's why you get that. It's like you put a piece of fruit out that's not hydrated, then eventually the skin of the apple will shrivel and wrinkle. And that's what happens to us if we're not hydrated and have that level of hydration on multiples of levels, not just the water we drink, to be able to hydrate the physical being.
That's it. And a couple points on that. One is that all this blue light and all this electromagnetic frequencies, they dehydrate the body. That's one point. Now I have to think what my other point was. That going back to the sound therapy, people don't realize we're actually batteries made of water and charged by sunlight. So
Right.
hence why that sunlight protocol is so important, and it's important to get that light. And so we got our challenges now because there's so much of this blue light. I mean, I had a client here today that was telling me she has 5 kids, and she said, "Oh no, they everything in school is a laptop now.
Mhm.
There are no books. They don't ever bring books home,
Mhm.
and their homework, and so they'll read stories on the laptop." And I just
Yep.
looked at her. I said, "How's their vision?" And she said, "Well, actually, my oldest, like she's got their, I think her oldest might be 9, is starting to complain she wants to go to the eye doctor because she's not seeing as well." And I
Mhm.
was, telling her about some of the countries in the Far East that have adopted all this technology sooner than we did. They're like 90% myopic. Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is going to be the norm unless we figure out how to protect from all
Yeah.
this blue light. And we all know the idea of looking at a screen so close and not focusing. And there's an app you can get to actually help. It stops you every however minutes to go take a rest, look outside,
Right.
20 feet for 20 seconds every 20 minutes or whatever.
Pretty sad though that we need an app to tell us to look outside and to actually enjoy the sunlight, but that's a whole different conversation.
That that was classic. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah. So this workshop that you have, where is it? You've mentioned some of it is at Bennies Corners at Leslie Holcoop's home, which we will put the address in, and the rest is online. So how much is the course should somebody want to do this 5-week course?
Okay, so the 5-week course is 250, and it is just to let you know, it's an in she actually used this term, but it's an introductory price
Mm-hmm.
because eventually I'm going to have these workshops, for sale probably on my website. And
Right.
quantum nutrition alone will probably be worth 250.
Right.
If I look at, I have one colleague who's created her own version of this. I have to look at what she's trying, and that's hers are US dollars.
Yes.
So it's 250. And if you don't want to do the whole series and you just want to do one of them or two of them, she has specific prices. I think most of them are 50. I'll just see if I've got the prices here.
So
Yeah,
who
yeah.
would somebody need to get in touch with should they want more information?
So it is Leslie. You can reach out to me if you know me personally, or on my website, LauraKissmannWellness.com.
Okay.
Kissman with 2 N's. But Leslie is the one that's she's doing all the money and the finance and accounting for it.
Excellent.
And yeah, I think they're all 3 of them are 50. The online ones are 50, and the 2 in person are 60 because there's going to be a potluck and it's
Okay.
at our home. So let me just
So
double check that the last one.
okay, so should somebody want to do all 5, it's 250. But if
That's
something
correct.
jumps out to somebody that they just want to do one specific one, it has its own individual price and they can just
That's right.
do 1 or 2 of these workshops with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. You
Excellent.
just do what you can do,
Yeah.
right?
Now, I know you mentioned when you and I were chatting prior to us starting this podcast, you have a workshop coming up very soon.
I do. It's not all meant to have landed in the same week, but it has. So next Tuesday, the 30th, I'm just teaching an online workshop. It's the 4th in a series that I decided, had my vision at the beginning of 2023, that the world needed to know that electromagnetic frequencies were harming us and what can we do
Ex-
about it. So I've been doing this series, and so it is the 4th in the series. And you don't have to have come to the rest. You can jump in as it is. And it's
Timing.
called Building Resiliency to Electromagnetic Frequencies, EMFs, I call them. And I mean, in some ways, it's this series. I'm going to be taking highlights from this series, but it's a whole bunch of new information.
Mhm.
Yeah. So because in this series, the initial one was teaching people what is electropollution. The second one was talking about the risks to health. The third one was how do we mitigate? And that was actually quite a passion of mine because I started with my clients trying to teach them about this, and I'd buy another meter and another meter. And I also became a co-founder of Ontario for Safe Technology. And when things were pretty quiet in my business in 2020 and
Yeah.
even 2021, we were quite active in that because we were very concerned about a lot of new technology being rolled out, and what that was, and of course our kids all now online, and doing school through the computer. So anyway, I started testing people's homes, and so now I'm doing it, beyond just my clients as well. And so yeah, I really wanted to challenge myself to do a workshop on teaching people, just really to inspire people to test, because you can't, if you can't see it, you don't know it's
No,
there.
exactly.
No, and so that was an interesting one, and I had planned in that one to have a little section on building resiliency. Well, we never got to it. There was so much to
Right.
talk about in the mitigation, and so that's where this one has come from. So it's been a few months in the. It's not even finished. I'm still this weekend. I'm putting the finishing touches on it, but I'm getting excited about it because
Excellent.
it's this is
And what time is the online one on Tuesday?
7 o'clock
7
on
p.m.
Tuesday.
And,
So people need to reach out to me for that
okay.
one.
Yeah.
So laurakissmanwellness.com, or they can call me.
And how much is that workshop, Laura?
It's only 40.
$40. Okay,
Yeah.
that's excellent. So before we close, because I know you and I can spend a lot of time chatting about different things, if there was one thing that you wanted to say to the audience listening, to make them aware of different things that you're teaching and how it will benefit their health, what is it you would say to them?
So you said one thing to benefit their health?
Yeah.
Sync with the sun, right? Try and sync with the sun. It's unfortunately the hardest time of year to do it because sunrise is so early. So if you're used to waking up at 7 and now you have to wake up at 5:30, it is much harder. And did you ask me
About the workshop?
about the why they should come? What would
Yeah.
motivate people? Okay. I think we're not as healthy as we think we are.
Right.
And I think that got proved out during COVID. And maybe we know lots of people are on medications. I have so many people, not so many, but I know people that come to me and say, my doctor just does a double take when I tell them I'm not taking a medication.
Right.
Because they
Yes.
expect you to, right? And it's not usually one, it's more than one. And so just, yeah, you know what? If you really want to change your health trajectory, you actually need to learn about quantum biology. Ignorance isn't bliss, because those little guys, your mitochondria, they're like the sixth sense, in the body, and they are sensing everything you're doing all the time. They're sensing the temperature, they're sensing your stress level, again, the food that you just put in. And so get to know them. That's what I'm going to teaching people. I'm going to inspire people to become mitochondriacs. Not a hypochondriac, a mitochondriac. And it's an empowering version of a hypochondriac. Yeah, you feel empowered because there's something you can do for your own health. And most of it is 100% free. It's working in alignment with nature.
Wow, thank you very much, Laura. Well, thank you for joining me, and thank you for sharing about the workshop that you have coming up and the one on Tuesday. So for everybody listening, if this at all calls to you and you're in a position in your life where something may have been coming up in your health, or somebody in your family or friends that may have been experiencing health issues, symptoms coming up, and they haven't quite got the answer yet, or they've tried everything and they don't know what else to do, perhaps doing this workshop or doing one of these modules within this 5-day workshop, or even going to the one on Tuesday that Laura's offering, might be a place for you to start. So please share these videos. You never know who needs to hear them, and what information that has already been spoken of that might be a light bulb moment for you or for someone else. So thank you again for sharing these videos. Thank you, Laura, for joining me this evening.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for caring so much.
You're very, very welcome. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye-bye.